Welcome back to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns, and in this episode, we are going to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and Mehdi Hasan. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. This is a severe, a left wing, um, I guess, left wing commentator, and he tried to one up Vivek. He tried to call him out on several things that Vivek have done in his career, and basically he told Vivek that he's not qualified to run for president because he had no experience in political office. Well, we know that does not necessarily qualify you to run for office, because our last president, President Trump, he didn't have any experience in a political office. But I think majority of Americans would agree that they would like to see a president that is for the American people and not just the grand old establishment. So we're gonna react to that video. Also, I found this past Friday we viewed an insert of Bill Maher, and he was debating John Mellencamp, about racism. I found that full video, and so we'll view some of that video today, and then we got a lot of some other stuff that I would like to discuss. Okay, so let's get to Vivek.
I both grew up as kids of Indian immigrants who loved to debate, super confident, perhaps overconfident in our views. But here's the difference. I kind of know my limits. You, on the other hand, having never held or even run for any elected office before, be it Congress or even school board, having not voted in 3 presidential elections in a row, suddenly now want to be president, go straight for the top job on planet Earth. Your critics would say that's the epitome of tech bro arrogance. What is your response to them? I get that you're an outsider. Personally, I like outsiders. Yeah. But what have you done that even qualifies you to be president of the United States?
So look, Mehdi, I have been taking on bureaucracies my entire life. I took on the bureaucracy of big pharma starting in my late 20s, at a time when I think pharma was corrupt and going in a lot of directions that they shouldn't have been. I actually built a multi-billion-dollar business developing medicines that pharma had abandoned. I took on the ESG bureaucracy, competing with firms like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard to build a successful firm called Strive. Yes, none of that is in government, but it is in the private sector. It involves taking on bureaucracies.
Okay.
And that exactly is my mission here, is taking on the biggest bureaucracy of all, that in the federal government in Washington, D.C. And the other thing I'll add to that, Mehdi, is it's not just the outsider pitch. I think we do need an outsider. I think it's good to have a business background. But I'm also an outsider who deeply understands the law and the Constitution in this country. And I think that's the unique combination that actually makes this my calling. And I hope that we're going to be successful in reviving this country.
So you talk about your business background. Let's talk about that. You made your name and made a lot of your early big money from pushing an Alzheimer's drug that had already failed 4 clinical trials when you bought it. You then talked it up on CNBC, in Forbes, on the cover. Your company subsidiary shot up by billions in value when it went public in 2015. But then the drug failed its phase 3 trial.
This is where Mehdi thinks he's going to get a aha moment over Vivek Ramaswamy. As far as letting him talk, you'll see throughout the interview, Mehdi Hasan would not let him finish his statements. He wouldn't let him answer the questions before he fired off another one, similar to what they did on the Breakfast Club and similar what Al Sharpton did to him. They're trying to get this aha moment, and I caught you in a lie. Now, there's some things that does concern me about Vivek Ramaswamy, but as far as his career goes, I think he's been open and transparent. But apparently, liberals don't like him being a biotech entrepreneur because he made too much money. That's basically, in short, what I get from all the interviews that Vivek attended.
On your watch, the company lost 75% of its value in a single day. Ordinary investors like the California State Teachers Pension Fund lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But you cashed out beforehand via your parent company to the tune of, I believe, over $37 million. Your critics say it's a classic pump and dump scheme. What do you say to them?
Yeah, Mehdi, that's the standard opposition research during politics reading line. Anybody in the biotech industry knows this story very well. 99.7% of Alzheimer's drugs have failed. That's thousands of drugs. Mine was one of them. But the company I founded, Roivant, developed a range of medicines. And the way I made my money was not through the failure of that Alzheimer's drug. This is one of the pieces of misinformation from opposition research. I could have sold shares in that subsidiary Alzheimer's company, but didn't. So the person who was hurt by that was me.
Hold on.
But
you say this a lot, but you did sell shares in Roivant, and you made $37 million.
And Mehdi,
$37 million.
Mehdi, I think you owe it to your audience. Mehdi, I think you owe it to your audience to be accurate. That is shares in a different company, not Axovan. And those shares that I sold are worth, and those shares are worth dramatically more today. So I would have made more money had I held on to those shares. So don't believe what the opposition research purveys through the media.
It's not opposition research. We looked at your tax returns, which you very kindly have released.
Yeah, exactly.
And
which I voluntarily released because I want to be transparent.
You made $300,000 in 2014 on capital gains. In 2015, after the IPO of this Axovan, you made $37 million in capital gains. Yet others didn't make that kind of money.
After Mehdi, give me a break. After Roivant, the multi-billion-dollar business that developed 40-plus medicines, yes, I sold shares in that business, if I may actually allow you to know how I made my money, developed 5 FDA-approved therapies that are now FDA-approved today.
After you sold
one of them is a life-saving therapy in kids.
When you were CEO,
Another
were
one,
they?
They were FDA. Actually, over the time that I developed them, we took them all the way through phase 3, and then we did a $3 billion deal that actually.
They were approved a year and a half later after you sold the company.
Yeah, so Mehdi, I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to fault you for not knowing the first thing about biotech because that's not your job. But getting through phase 3 is the final stage of clinical testing. Before you hand in the application, yes, my company did a $3 billion deal that actually did make money for those shareholders. And so, yes, I have built Roivant's a publicly traded company, nearly $10 billion public company today that I built as the sole founder from scratch, as one of several companies that I've built. So, yes, I have a business record that I'm proud of and will equip me to lead this country.
You mentioned stage 3 trials.
Like Vivek mentioned, you don't know the process of biotech or getting medicines approved. They apparently they have to go through 3 phases for you could get FDA approved. And what Mehdi failed to realize, okay, yeah, I sold them before I actually had the FDA paper in my hand, but these were all successful 3-stage trials. So we submitted our application, and I'm assuming that they have to have certain numbers or metrics to be met to say, okay, we could go to the final stages of getting these medicines approved. But another thing I want to point out, okay, that's neither here nor there. I build a biotech company, and you're citing one medicine that did not get approved. And Vivek mentioned, okay, that's one medicine, one drug, but we're talking about multiple drugs, tens, and I think he said up to 40 something types of drugs that his company produce. Of course, he's going to make a lot of money. That's why he's in that space, not only to make money, but it's essentially he's risking a lot as well, because you, like clinical trials, you could produce a medicine and it doesn't work effectively. It causes illnesses and all this stuff. So why is he so mad that Vivek made money off of a company? He got it to one stage and sold it. That's what companies do. They get it to a stage. If they don't want to pass it off to their kids, they get it to a stage so they could sell. That's what the main goal of being a capitalist and an entrepreneur.
The Alzheimer's drug failed it after you did a lot of touting of it. You say 99.7% failed. You never said that at the time. Do you have any regrets about how you hyped that drug?
I did say that.
CEO of Roivant said this week that you hyped the drug. Do you regret hyping it?
We did not hype the drug. To the contrary, actually, one of the things that I found
this week.
Well, I can't speak for what is or is. I haven't read any article that you're quoting, so I don't exactly know what you're referring to. The fact of the matter is, though, I have been transparent at every step of the way. Everyone who's in the biotech industry knows that Alzheimer's disease is the graveyard for medicines. But I still think it's an important area of need. And I'll say this, Mehdi, is, you know what? If I serve for 2 terms, I'm still going to be in my 40s when I leave the White House. It is a personal passion of mine to come back and see if Alzheimer's disease hasn't been cured. I do want to play a role in still delivering treatments and cures for that disease. And people who don't take risks, don't achieve meaningful impact, the medicines that I did develop, I'm proud of. And you don't get there without having a number of medicines that you test along the way. And the other thing I will say is our success rate under my watch was higher than probably nearly 99.9% of biotech startups in the last decade. So yeah, I stand by that record. I'm not afraid of taking risks. That's part of the American spirit.
Well, technically, the successes were a year and a half after you sold the company, but we'll get bogged down. Let's talk politics.
Mehdi, that's dead wrong, and I would sorry to say you're embarrassing yourself in front of anybody who knows anything about biotech for knowing that phase 3 trials are the final stage. Okay. The final stage, the FDA phase 3 studies succeeded. So you're barking up the wrong tree, but we can continue to move on.
Let's talk politics. We want to talk lots of stuff. Sure. You're an advocate, your critics say, of fantasy politics, of magical thinking. They say you propose stuff that can't be done. For example, you said on Meet the Press the other week that if you'd been in Mike Pence's place on January the 6th, you would have insisted on first passing a bill that night to bring in single-day voting on election day.
That's inaccurate.
Government issued ID.
Okay, I have to say this, like, the algorithms. I thought the answer was to just make as many videos as humanly
at night. I never said that night.
What you would have done on January the 6th. And you said I would have done this. And
I said what I would have done differently is that I was precise about the period between, and this is still ambitious, I'll admit, but at least let's get my view correct. It is ambitious. Between November 4th and January 6th, I think it was an opportunity for heroism.
Just to be clear, you never said anything about
said it every step.
Let's play the clip, guys. Do we have the clip?
I've said this in countless forums.
Have a listen to the clip.
On your Chuck Todd splice script, in all of my written statements and everything I've said.
Hold on, we're playing the clip right now.
In that period between the election, here's what I would have said. We need single-day voting on Election Day. We need paper ballots, and we need government-issued ID matching the voter file. And if we achieve that, then we have achieved victory, and we should not have any further complaint about election integrity.
So what would you have done
through the Senate?
So what would you have done with Mike Pence? You would have not certified the election?
So in my capacity as president of the Senate, I would have led through that level of reform. Then on that condition, certified the election results, served it up to the president, President Trump, then to sign that into law, and on January 7th, declared the re-election campaign pursuant to a free and fair election.
Vivek, not only do you not mention anything about November, but let's say you did do November. That joint session was not a legislative
that's still
session.
Ambitious.
The vice president doesn't have the power to introduce legislation. Neither party would have backed such a bill.
Oh, come on,
It couldn't have been passed in a day.
The fact of the matter is,
naive stuff. The president.
The president and vice president absolutely drive legislation through Congress. That is exactly how things work.
Trump wasn't doing legislation.
Now,
he was busy pushing the big lie, as you pointed out yourself in your books.
Well,
so he wasn't
and
there.
I wasn't
Mike
the vice
Pence
president of the United States.
Passed a bill,
and I was not the vice president of the United States. You guys in the media, you guys in the MSNBC crack me up to sort of create a hypothetical situation to say, if you had been vice president, what would you have been doing? I'm telling you exactly what I've been doing, but you're saying, but that's what Donald Trump was doing. This is a joke. Let's actually have a substantive conversation. Do you want to have a substantive conversation about what should have happened, or do you want to play a game of gotcha? Because you have a choice.
You see, Vivek is getting upset because, hey, don't hypothetically, these are the facts. We're living in like 2023. Ask me about 2023 and what I'm running for on my election campaign. You're trying to tie me into Donald Trump. Of course, I said I support Donald Trump. Some of the stuff I didn't agree with as far as January the 6th, and he's always said that. But this guy, Mehdi, he wants him to say things and hypothetical things that never happened. Okay, so that's what I believe, but this is not reality. This is our reality. This is what we're facing now. I'm running for president. So he's really ridiculous in this interview. And I'm glad Vivek finally told him, okay, do you want to have a serious interview and ask me about what I stand or what I believe in? Or do you want to just make some shit up and you're trying to get an aha moment? Take out little snippets of what I said and didn't even, actually the snippets that I said didn't even pertain to what you're trying to talk about.
The choice is yours. Do you actually want to have a substantive conversation? If you do, I'm down to do it. We want a substantive conversation. What we need.
You said substantive full time.
Actually, if you want to get a word in, you know, if you're going to speak the truth and ask a legitimate question, have at it.
I think it is a legitimate question. Multiple people wondered about your knowledge of how Congress works, suggesting Mike Pence, by the way, on the debate stage, asked you if you would have supported what he did. It's not an MSNBC question. It's a Republican vice president question.
Yes.
So fine, you don't want to answer
it. And what I'm saying is, it was a missed opportunity for heroism, not in one day, but I think that in a period of 2 months. And I think, you're a smart guy.
It couldn't have been done in a lame duck Congress.
American
You're a smart guy. You know it couldn't have been done in 2 months.
I think under extraordinary circumstances, in extraordinary times, we have an American Confidence in Elections Act. It's literally making its way through Congress now. ACE. I support it. I think if we had gotten that done during that window, further we said it, single-day voting on
Democrats
election day
wouldn't have
as a
agreed to
national
voting
holiday.
ID, and Mitch McConnell wouldn't have agreed to a national holiday.
Democrats should agree
we can
to
argue
it.
forever. We can argue forever about that.
Democrats should agree to it.
That's a different
argument.
argument. It wouldn't have
I
happened,
think we're
is
still
what
going to
I'm
get that done when I'm the president.
Okay.
When
So
I'm
you
the
said
president,
recently, so
not
you
in some
make a lot of-
fantasy land where I was vice president in some other year in the historical
let's
history.
talk about you as
but
president.
What I'm running for,
Understood.
this is what we're going to do.
Let me ask a question so we don't run out of time. Please don't filibuster. I just want to ask a question about when you're president, you said this is your words, quote, if you want to stay out of no-win wars and make America stronger at home, I know how to get that done. Genuine question, Vivek, not a gotcha. How? How do you know how to get that done? With respect, you've literally never done anything like that in your life. I could go out on the street outside the studio, grab someone. They have as much experience as you do of keeping us out of foreign wars. That's not an insult. That's just a statement of fact.
No, it's not an insult. It's a fact, right? And it is also a fact that everybody else who does have experience in the foreign policy establishment has been sending us into no-win wars for a long time. Both of those are facts. Here's how I would do it. Let's get specific, and I'm glad we've finally gotten to the doorstep of actually discussing a policy agenda. Here's what I would do. Pull Russia apart in its military alliance with China. Those two countries are in a military treaty dating back to 2001. That is the single greatest threat that the United States faces. So I would end the Ukraine war on terms that, yes, allow Ukraine to at least come out with its sovereignty intact, which may not even be the track they're on right now. But in return, and also make a commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO. In conjunction, and by the way, for people in the foreign policy establishment, they forgot that Gorbachev was made that promise by James Baker in the United States in 1990. So keep our word there. But in return, actually make a hard requirement that Vladimir Putin exit his military alliance with China and remove his Russian military presence from the West. That's the deal that I would do.
Again, the fantasy land is why would Putin just agree with you? Why? Because you asked nicely, Putin will hold his word. He'll pocket your concessions and not just carry on dealing with his biggest trading partner, China?
Well, here's the thing. I actually think that China shouldn't be his biggest trading partner. I think it's a mistake that we've closed off economic relations with Russia. I would lead both the United States and the West to reopen economic relations with Russia because Putin does not enjoy being Xi Jinping's little brother. Mehdi, you're a smart guy. Look at what he's done. He's actually sent weapons to both India and Vietnam right after the February 2022 meeting he had with Xi Jinping. There are cracks in that armor, but we need to actually open our eyes to see the opportunity staring us in the face.
We will have to agree to disagree whether we think that you can persuade Vladimir Putin to drop his alliance with Xi Jinping. You have made truth the centerpiece of your campaign. So let's talk about your trustworthiness.
Yes.
For example, when CNN quoted you talking to The Atlantic about 9/11 and federal agents possibly being on the planes, you said the quote is wrong, actually. But the quote wasn't wrong. The Atlantic released the audio of what you saying exactly what they said you said.
Mehdi,
Let me finish the question.
Let me be crystal clear.
Let me finish the question.
Atlantic released the whole tape. They've refused to do it. Yep.
You said on Twitter Spaces last month that no, you had never supported Bernie Sanders' mask for all legislation, but you literally put out a tweet in July of 2020 calling it a sensible idea. You also said not once but twice in June and July that the first time you'd ever voted was in 2020 for Trump, but in fact the first time you voted for president was in 2004 for a pro-choice libertarian candidate. How can people believe what you say?
So, Mehdi, let me just go through one by one. The Atlantic, yes, purposefully spliced an out-of-context quote where we have challenged them. They released the tapes. We asked them for the tapes first. They didn't give them to us. They waited then to splice them and release them publicly. I challenged the Atlantic to release that entire conversation. And what was a conversation about how many federal agents were in the field?
You said was wrong. We all heard it. We can play it if you like.
No,
it is exactly word for word what she quoted to you. You said they put words in your mouth.
Look, if you want hard facts, here are hard facts. That day, the Atlantic printed it. I said, that looks like something that never captured the character of our conversation. Can you ask Atlantic for the tapes? They said they would refuse to release the recording to us. So when Caitlin asked me about it, I said, that does not at all sound like the context of what I said. And then, it turns out the Atlantic releases a very...
is wrong, actually. You're putting words in my mouth.
It functionally sends the wrong message, Mehdi.
Oh, functionally. Okay. You could have said it's out of context. You said
it was so badly taken out of context that it misled their audience. It was so badly taken out of context, it was basically a lie and it misled their audience. But ask the Atlantic to release it. So my view here is...
The lie is denying you said words that we all heard you say on tape.
Filters. Mehdi, if they are going to cut something before and after without the question of what the guy is that came beforehand, come on, why wouldn't the Atlantic? Why are they so reluctant to release the whole recording?
Maybe because the audio they released, you're still denying you said what's on the audio. Okay, let's ask you this question. Is Donald Trump,
it's a
as
joke
you say now,
the media is going to selectively edit this, and this is the way this game is played. Politics is dirty, that's okay, I'm ready for it.
It's not edited, just to be clear. Is Donald Trump, as you say now, the best president of the 21st century?
Yeah, of the 21st century. Yes, he was.
Let me ask my question. Let me finish the question. Is Donald Trump, as you say now, the best president of the 21st century, who you say you want as an advisor and a mentor if you become president? Or is Trump, as you've said in the past in your books on Twitter, a, quote, sore loser who is a, quote, danger to democracy and who did, quote, downright abhorrent and egregious things on January the 6th? Which one is he, Vivek?
So to be crystal clear, between George Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump, Those are the presidents of the 21st century. Donald Trump is unambiguously, as judged by the results, the best president of the 21st century. Kept us out of wars, grew the economy. I give him full credit for that. I want to build on that foundation and take this country to the next level.
But you've also called him a sore loser who is a danger to democracy. Those are strong words.
Would I have made the same judgments that he has made at every step of the way? No, I will remind you that I'm running for U.S. president because I am best positioned to lead this country.
This is where Mehdi is trying to associate Vivek Ramaswamy with Donald Trump. And Vivek already made it clear that he supports Donald Trump. He feels like Donald Trump was the best president. But I guess since this is liberal media outlet, they had to make sure that he is seen as a liar and a stern supporter of Donald Trump. So that's why Mehdi is going this way. But it has nothing to do with today. Okay. He didn't agree with the mistakes that Donald Trump made. Everybody knows that. So why are you keep on going down this road? So he's really trying to get a hot moment with Vivek, but right now he seemed like he's just trying too hard.
I ask you what they are, Vivek.
Yes.
You say he behaved in downright abhorrent behavior that makes him a danger to democracy.
Yeah,
what was it that was downright? Tell me what he did that was downright abhorrent.
Let's actually be really fair to your audience. So on January 10th, 2021, thereabouts, days after that incident, I wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal arguing that censorship was the real cause of what happened on January 6th. When asked in response, somebody asked me the question, are you... That's what I wrote. I'm giving you the facts of what I said. That's a hard fact. That was published in the Wall Street Journal. When pressed on, was that condoning what Trump did? My answer was no. There's a difference between a bad judgment and a crime.
And
we need to be able to tell the difference in this country.
What did Donald Trump do, in your view, that was downright abhorrent? Second time
I think that the thing that I would have done differently if I were in his shoes is I would have declared re-election on January 7th.
I'll ask it a third time.
That's exactly the thing I would have done.
What did Trump do that was egregious, quote, downright abhorrent, and a danger to democracy? Can you just explain to our viewers? Your words.
So you're mixing two different quotes. But what did I think was reprehensible about what happened that day? Look, I think that the way a true leader should have handled that situation should have been to actually say, this is me running for re-election, not actually litigating what is already passed and behind us. And I would have done things differently. That is not a crime, though, what he did. And the reason I have been so vehement...
You keep saying what you would have done. I just want to hear from your mouth. No, unless you're scared of him, why won't you say what he did that was downright abhorrent?
I'm not going to let you you're stitching together three things from three different places. Create a caricature. Do you want to have an actual conversation?
Yes, I want you to answer my question, Vivek. Three times I've asked it. What did Trump do that was downright abhorrent? It's a simple question. It's your words. It's on screen. What did he do that was downright abhorrent?
I believe that failing to unite this country falls short of what a true leader ought to do. That is why I'm in this race, is to do things differently than any prior president has done them. That's the hard truth, okay?
And that's what made him a sore loser and abhorrent. Yes, your words.
Well, the reality is none of that is a crime. And the reason I have been so vocal, is because when somebody actually prosecutes somebody for a bad judgment, and I've been clear,
I understand your objections to the litigation.
I would have made different judgments.
That's what I asked.
That is a distinction we have to draw.
Understood. You say you are anti-identity politics, anti-affirmative action in a party that hates the Soros name, yet you accepted a Paul and Daisy Soros scholarship at law school that was specifically set up for the children of immigrants. It was an affirmative action scholarship, and your defense for that is that you didn't have the money to pay for law school, even though you'd already made over $1 million at the time and made another $2 million.
My defense of that is somebody gives you a merit scholarship at the age of 24, you take it. At the age of 24, somebody gives you a merit scholarship, you take it. I didn't say I didn't have the money. I said at a time when I had a lot less money than now, $50,000 was still useful to money to me.
You keep forgetting your quote. You said, when I didn't have the money.
So, Mehdi, I've made this really easy for everybody, and I did this in the early weeks of the campaign. I released 20 years of tax returns, something that no presidential candidate, let alone somebody who's successful in business, has done. I challenge Democrats and Republicans alike, including the Biden family, to do it. And you know what? I released it so that you could look at them, so we can have an honest conversation.
I appreciate that.
The funny thing I've learned,
I do appreciate that. It's something Trump should learn from you.
Transparency is important. So it's already open and everybody can see it.
Exactly. We have 2009.
But the fact of the matter is, you know what I would advise every 24-year-old should take
2009 and 2010. You made $750,000. You had the money to pay for law school. You didn't need a Soros affirmative action scholarship that you now criticize.
I mean, none of this is worthy, but if you think it is, let's get to the detail. That was actually the first big piece of money.
You say you're anti-affirmative action. You took a scholarship for immigrants.
I'm anti-affirmative action.
So why'd you take a scholarship for the children?
Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't want to spend my money on education. if there's a scholarship, if I could get all the scholarships that I can based off of my merit and my intellect, I'm going to apply for the scholarship. This is not saying I'm applying for the scholarship because I meet the income guideline requirements. I totally disagree with that. And I think he was in law school. I think he got a law school scholarship. But merit scholarship versus I need the scholarship based off because I don't have the income, those are totally two different things. So I don't know why he's saying this. You know, he's acting like he never accepted a scholarship, or maybe he hasn't. Maybe he doesn't have the brains to get a scholarship.
Which falsehood would you like me to address? The financial one or the one about my views on affirmative action? Because I can go in whichever order you'd like.
On the
financial piece of it. Not at the time that I had applied for the scholarship that fall.
Yes, you did.
That December.
Yes, you did. This is awkward for you because you did. I've got the tax returns in front of my face.
No, it's not awkward for you. Yes, on December 31st, when the application for the scholarship was that October. Mehdi, you're wasting your time on childish details in October of that year when I applied for that scholarship. And it was, well, guess what? The bonuses that a hedge fund pays, and it's a shame that, again, you don't have to be an expert on this, but if you're going to spout out, you better know something about it. People pay at a hedge fund the bonuses at the end of a year. And on December 31st, that's when I was paid. I applied for the scholarship that September, and I did not grow up in a wealthy family.
Vivek, you made more money the previous year.
I made $200,000 pre-tax or whatever it was.
No, you didn't.
And
no,
you
you didn't. No, you didn't. You're now telling flat. In 2009,
you have my tax returns in front of you. I don't remember what I made in 2009.
In 2009, you made $650,000. In 2010, you made less, $450,000. So the argument that you only made the money pre the scholarship, oh, so now we're bringing tax into it. We've been using gross numbers.
Absolutely.
Vivek, you're wrong on this. Go back and check your tax returns. You made $750,000,
obviously makes a big difference.
And then you accepted a Soros scholarship for $50,000 when you didn't need it.
Well, you know what the fact is, Mehdi, is $50,000 did make a big difference to me back then. And anybody who has a few $100,000 in the bank is going to take $50,000 without strings attached. Take the scholarship. But my question for you is, why on earth are you, as an intelligent person interested in politics, obsessing over a 24-year-old $50,000 scholarship?
I'm interested in truth,
beneath you.
We have a country to fix. That you wear. And I'm interested in truth.
And Mehdi, that's why I released 20. Mehdi, that is why I released 20 years of tax records. Tell your friends in the Biden administration to do the same thing. Tell your
Mehdi, you need to stop it. And Vivek is right. This is 20 years ago. Who cares what I did 20 years ago? I accepted a scholarship. And right now, he probably gives out more money than what he accepted. So what is he saying? He was a 24-year-old guy that was smart, and he got a scholarship. Just like all these other kids that get multiple scholarships, who says they can't accept them? That doesn't make any sense. You accept all of them. It's free money. It's nothing attached to it. If it's based off your merit, you should accept them. And then you got this nut job talking about, oh, you're not telling the truth. If I wanted to hide something, I wouldn't have released my tax returns. And that says something, a 24-year-old making $600,000 a year, apparently he's very smart and grew up, poor. So he went from growing up mediocre to when he was in his 20s, making six figures, multiple six figures. What's wrong with that? It's not a crime making money. It's not a crime to invest, but you just don't like entrepreneurs. You don't like capitalism. You want everybody to be poor. You're mad at him because he got a scholarship and you probably couldn't get a scholarship. Or you mad at him because he made a lot of money at 24 and you didn't make none.
Democrat candidates to do the same thing.
We've gone over time.
Breaking precedents, and I think it is pathetic. I just think it is sad and pathetic that that we have important issues to talk about for the future of a country, and you're talking about a $50,000 scholarship in 2010 to go to Yale Law School when I was 24. This is pathetic. This is why nobody trusts you guys.
It is pathetic in your view, but you paid.
And he went to Yale Law School. Does he know how much Yale costs? Of course, you're going to apply for all the scholarships. It doesn't matter if your mommy or daddy has the money or you have the money. You're going to apply for some scholarships, because if I could get a scholarship based off my brains, why not get the scholarship? What's so hard about that for him to realize? Like, what is the crime about getting a merit-based scholarship?
a Wikipedia editor who then removed it. So clearly it's something you didn't want people to read about. Last question, because we've gone over time.
Who also said I was born in India. Who also said I was born in India and misspelled and got my wife's name wrong. So yes,
okay,
we actually need to correct facts when people are playing this game.
Last question. You want me to ask a substantive question? Here's what I worry about most: democracy in this country.
I would love
not just under Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Last question for you. Not just under Donald Trump, but under you, people are worried about authoritarianism. You have preemptively promised to pardon Trump no matter what juries of his peers decide, as well as today extending those pardons to January 6 rioters. You've dismissed white supremacists as boogeymen and unicorns. You want to fire at least half the federal government workforce. That's over 1 million people. You want to remove the right to vote from 18 to 25-year-olds. That's over 30 million people. You want to get rid of birthright citizenship. In fact, you refer to voting and citizenship as privileges when they are, in my view and in the Constitution view, rights. It's a very anti-democratic worldview. What do you say to people who criticize you for that?
I don't think it's an anti-democratic worldview. I favor reviving the lifeblood of our constitutional republic. Revive actual free speech and open debate in this country. Revive civic duty in this country, something that our founding fathers envisioned. Revive true equality in front of the law, where people aren't prosecuted because of the color of their skin or because of the content of their political views. One standard of the rule of law for everybody. I stand for the founding vision of the country, where the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government, when in fact most policymaking functions in D.C. are performed by federal bureaucrats. So yes, my standard is, would Alexander Hamilton and John James and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, would they be proud of what they see today, or would they be appalled? I think if they walked around and saw Washington, D.C. today, they would be appalled. By the time I leave office in January 2033 after 2 terms, they will once again be proud of what we've created, a government with 3 co-equal branches, not 4, shutting down that administrative state, reviving civic duty, and reviving one standard of the rule of law for all Americans. And that is not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is a pro-American vision that I think can actually reunite this country, which is what I believe I will uniquely be able to deliver as the next president.
Vivek Ramaswamy, we will have to leave it there. Appreciate you coming on the show, taking my questions, even if you didn't like all of them. Appreciate you taking time out from a busy campaign.
Your questions was stupid. They didn't have nothing to do with his campaign. You was asking questions, hypothetical questions that had nothing to do. What if this happened back in 2020? Who cares? It's past. This we're no longer wondering about 2020. We're talking about 2023 in the future. Like, I don't understand these liberal people. They're just like a bunch of nut job people, individuals that just want to spew out this crazy rhetoric and get people riled up for nothing. Anyway, so you guys put in the chat, let me know what you think about that interview. And finally, I guess, Vivek pretty much owned the interview. If he could have let him like finish the questions, I think people would have understood where he was coming from. But none of the questions, it was a big waste of time. None of the questions he asked him had nothing to do with his campaign. So I think it was a waste of time. I think it was a 23-minute interview, 25-minute interview. Big waste of time. Anyway. Cal said, basically, it's wrong for a young student to use scholarship. Even I would get pissed with such a question. Yeah, I don't know why he brought that up. Okay. First, they tried to bring up, like in previous interviews, they tried to bring up, oh, he received money from the George Soros. And then Vivek debunked that and said, no, this scholarship is from his brother. And yeah, it was a merit-based scholarship, based off my grades and my GPA. It wasn't based off if I had enough money, because if we're talking about a financial-based scholarship, okay, maybe a lot of people will not qualify for that scholarship. Or a lot of people would apply for the scholarship versus the merit-based. Then it will become more competitive. But if you go on to Yale, they probably want it to be merit-based, not because if you just need it. No, they want you to have the brains too. So anyway, that was that. You guys, last Friday, we talked about Bill Maher and John Mellencamp. John Mellencamp and Bill Maher was discussing white supremacy. And I only played the snippet, like a minute from that interview. But I found the long form video. It's about 10 minutes. And it's basically Bill Maher and John Millikan is discussing racism. What is so traumatic about this? They're trying to establish what it is to be Black. You know, Bill Maher is saying like, oh, they're better off, and I'm saying they are, meaning Black people is better off being a slave, like in the entertainment industry. But John Mellencamp saying, oh, white people, all we want from Black people is to be entertainers. Entertaining is just equivalent to slavery. I think that's what he was getting at. And he's saying only 2% of Black people live better than what they lived back in slavery days, which is really ridiculous. Anyway, so this is the it's like I said, this is the insert of that long form video, but it's when they were discussing racism.
Industry. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about in a city in the music industry, and I'm guessing a fairly young crowd or a music loving crowd. They just don't strike me as people who in 2023 say those kind of things or even feel that way.
Have you ever heard a rap song?
Yes?
Okay.
What about it?
Me and Chuck D did a song 20 years ago.
20 years ago was 20 years ago.
Yeah, but we were talking about the N-word. We were talking about
Right.
how it's not supposed to be used and how it's not supposed to be. I mean, that's what I have against, not against, but you know, why I'm not a big fan of rap music is like, you guys are selling out what the people stood up for and fought for, and you're making money off of it, selling it to white kids.
Right.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It's honest.
Yeah, it's wrong. And so Chuck D and I did a song. I wrote the song, and then he rapped in the middle of it, and he just said, "Die, N-word, die," and that's right.
Just give me an example, and then I'll get off this. But I'm just curious of a recent example in the last couple of years.
I'm assuming that John is saying that you know, black individuals fought for their freedoms or their individual freedoms, and the use of the N-word. He feels that Black people shouldn't be saying it because of we fought so hard to be equal class of people. I don't like using the N-word either, but I think that's something that he can't speak about, you know? ER and A is two different things. Now, and I don't appreciate when Black folks use the N-word in front of white people. To me, it's like, why would you do that? You know, and then you're mad that a white person would try to use it. So it's two sides to the coin. I don't know which one is right, but I don't think he has I don't know. I don't think he has really the right to police someone else's words. That's what I'm getting at. Now you have the right to talk about it, but like policing saying you don't like rap music and because you don't like the way that they talk in rap music, you know, it's not your genre to police. It's not your words. So I don't like the rap music today, but back in the day, I mean, they were more intellectual in the rap music. But anyway, let's move forward.
Specifically of a incident of racism that you saw, like on tour or something that is in this.
I have a 29-year-old son. one of his best friends was black. Right? They went somewhere in Los Angeles. The guy got in an argument with this little skinny black kid. Waited for him to walk outside of the bar and ran him over and killed him. How much more of a fucking example do you want?
I mean, yeah.
Now you could say that was racism because one guy was white and the other guy was black, or you could just say the guy was psycho. We don't know what I mean. Was the guy? You didn't give us enough detailed information. Was the guy saying racist remarks? So just because a white person killed a black guy, that doesn't make them racist. Vice versa, just because a black person kills a white person, that doesn't make them racist. That just make them not crazy and kind of crazy in their head.
I'm not denying that things like that happen in this country.
But I'm just saying it's not any better. I mean, you may.
Well, that's what we're arguing about. I think
we're not arguing about anything. We're having a discussion.
Well, we're disagreeing.
No.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to disagree.
You say it in one of your songs.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Right.
I wrote a song that I never recorded because I felt it was wrong, but it was called From the Fucking Cotton Fields to the Playing Fields.
Are you overwhelmed by the complexities?
So he's saying from the cotton fields to the playing fields. That sound like, who does that sound like? Colin Kaepernick. If you guys saw that documentary he created, Colin Kaepernick said playing in the NFL is like being in the cotton fields, like modern day slavery. Well, last I checked, slaves don't get paid. And they was forced to work in extreme conditions. So why are you trying to make or link the two together?
Yeah.
So my point is that, yeah, so what? I would say us white people love to have black people entertain us.
I would say that the playing fields are a lot better than the cotton fields. That's what I would say about that. Maybe I'm crazy, John, but it seems like making no money as a slave picking cotton was not as good as playing left field for the Yankees. I mean, I'm sure there were reasons why.
Listen,
Dave Winfield has some beefs against Steinbrenner. I'm sure.
No doubt, there is 1 or 2% of black people in America who have a better life.
Oh, stop. That's what you think? 1 or 2%?
Okay, let's say 10%. I'm just pulling a number out of my ass.
It is that. That's where it belongs.
Okay.
Right. That's where it belongs, because you're telling me 1 or 2%, their life is equal to a slave, a person that's enslaved. 1 or 2%. So the rest of you, or where do we go? 90, he said, okay, let's say 10%. The other 90%, you might as well be slaves, because your life is no much better than what it was in 1876.
I just pulled a number out of my ass.
I know, but I'm telling you, that's just not true. But,
Well, okay, well.
I mean,
listen.
We do have statistics.
Talk to my son. He'll tell you.
Well, he saw one very horrific incident. Maybe that has colored his thinking.
What do you think? That's the only incident that happens?
Of course not. And it isn't. Again, the FBI has data on hate crimes.
The FBI?
Oh, they're in on it?
No, they're not in on it. But it's like the government. You trust the government? I don't trust those fucking people. I'm willing to throw them.
No, I've been often a skeptic of lots of things about the government. But do I think the FBI is making up hate crime statistics? No. Do I think they're exactly as they present them? No, I don't. Because
okay, if they're not making them up and they're not presenting them honestly, what do you call
somewhere
it?
in the middle. For example, they found out like a year ago that the coroners were kind of in cahoots with the cops on reporting deaths when police kill somebody.
I believe it.
Right. So there's what I'm saying. I'm acknowledging it's not exactly the data that they're always giving us. And it was infused with that would be systemic racism. I'm saying we have moved on from that, not completely, and the FBI is not the cops. So when the FBI compiles data on hate crimes, I'm like, yeah, this might be roughly where it is. I don't think it's crazy off. I think they actually, I mean, I think there's mostly FBI people are squares, and there's plenty of people of color in the FBI. Now, they've also had complaints about racism in the FBI.
Plenty of,
yes, as there is everywhere.
Plenty of cops.
And they're valid.
Plenty of guys, plenty of black people are ahead of police departments across the United States, and we're going to have to disagree on this.
Yeah, and we can.
Yeah, I just.
You think I'm going to throw you out?
No, I just think
No,
that I just think that being open-minded about what's really going on in the streets, as we said here.
Oh, I'm open-minded. Are you?
Do you really think our government has improved since they killed Kennedy? Do you really think that
that's such
Oswald killed Kennedy? You think so?
Wait. That's such a broad question. Our government has improved. What parts of it?
Any of it.
Any of it.
Any of it.
No, it's pretty politically. We have gone downhill.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean people's lives are worse, because culture is a different thing, and America has moved on a lot culturally, which includes race, gender, homosexuality. I mean, homosexual marriage, gay marriage, was on the ballot in 35 states up until about 2014. It failed in every one, and then the Supreme Court said it was the law of the land. You don't see that is progress. You don't see that things are different. It's not perfect, but we made it.
Here's my answer to that.
I mean, you're so cynical. I
I
can't believe I'm saying that.
Here's my answer to that. It's about fucking time.
Okay, well, great. We'll elect you the timekeeper then. Of course it's about fucking time. Everybody's late on everything. As Joe Friday used to say on Dragnet, we're recruiting from the human race. Yes, we're all schmucks and we're all late. Obama was late on gay marriage. Kennedy was late on civil rights. Lincoln was late on slavery. Everybody's always...
Well, we're saying that, hate crime exists and the numbers are wrong. And I'm going to share these statistics with you from the FBI. Okay, so their statistics are wrong. You can't trust the numbers. But as it stands today, in 2023, are we worse off or better off as Black people? Or as a group of minorities? Are we worse or better? I think the mindset in some instances is worse. But as far as opportunities that's available to Blacks, I think they're far more greater than they were in 1876. In 1876, you couldn't even buy land. You couldn't vote. We didn't, even though we were free, we still didn't have certain rights. So, are we worse off or better off? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. And I think we're vastly better than 1900s, even the 1950s. You guys put it in the chat. As far as the opportunities that exist for us. Put it in the chat if you agree or disagree.
Late. Biden's late now on pot. Everybody's fucking late.
Hold on for a second. I, unlike you, do not believe a fucking single word that comes out of any of that. I just don't believe it.
You don't believe gay marriage was illegal and then became legal?
No, I believe that.
Okay.
But I don't believe anything that the government reports.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Like the unemployment figures? That's what Trump says.
Maybe.
Trump, when he ran the first time, I mean, it's Trump, so you have to just use it for comic effect. But the unemployment rate, they're saying it's 4%. It could be as high as 35%, 40%. He just pulled it right out of his ass.
That's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying? What do you think the unemployment rate is?
I have no fucking idea. But
you think it's wrong what they were telling us?
Whatever it is, it's
So
probably
you don't trust
a lie.
that?
I don't trust the government.
I do. See,
you trust the government?
I trust the people who work in the deep state. I trust these fucking bureaucrats. Yes, I do. The people with stale pizza on their desk and cold coffee who just do the job of making sure that your life is as cushy as it fucking is, and most people's lives are, because a lot of nameless, faceless people doing boring jobs do things like, yes, compile data on unemployment. I do. I trust those stats generally.
I don't trust the stats generally. Now they're getting off of racism, but I don't trust the stats of the government, because you're saying unemployment is the people that actually filed for unemployment. The people that filed and could get unemployment and they have not exhausted their unemployment, those are the numbers that you're getting. But I totally agree with Trump. These numbers probably maybe doubled because they exhausted their unemployment. So there's no need to call. There's no need to call and say, hey, I'm unemployed. You're not giving me any more money because I'm unemployed. Anyway.
And you, I suppose you trust science also, right?
It depends on what science you're talking about.
Bill,
No,
when we were
one of my main things
when we were kids in the 70s.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he don't trust anybody, not even the government. He doesn't trust science. He probably still mail in his bill because he doesn't trust the internet. That's what he sounds like, a real conspiracy theory nut job. And it's not, I'm a conspiracy theory fan, but it's something you gotta believe in something. You can't just say, oh, that's because your mind can't fathom and put it together. That doesn't mean it's not real or it doesn't exist. Anyway, so this is the hate crime statistic. Hate crime statistics has been pretty stable for the last maybe 10 years. It teeters from 8,000 all the way to, I've seen some numbers from 5,000. Okay. So we're looking at hate crime against anti-Black and African Americans. We're talking about the whole United States as a population of a whole. We probably got about 360 million people, a little bit more now, let's say 370 million people, because they probably let 10 million people in over the last year. Okay, so we won't know that till they do another Census Bureau and that how many people we actually got in the country. But they're saying anti-Black or African American 2,800. 2,800 in 2020. I'm just looking at Black, but there's also other hate crimes against other races. So we can't just say, oh, we calculating hate crimes just for Black folks because the other crimes don't exist. It does exist. We know that's not true. So hate crimes in 2021, they said 2,200. Let's go back, because a lot of people say Barack Obama galvanized divisiveness, and actually Trump, a lot of lefties would say Trump galvanized racism. He propped up their base. So we're going back to 2008. Anti-Black African American, about 2,900. About the same. If you're thinking of the population of a whole, about 340,000, 360,000, give or take, or 360 million, give or take a few. In America, 8,000 total. What's the percentage of that? And 8,000, I think that's the highest number I've seen. This was back in 2008. So we're talking about hate crime. And people talk about white supremacy and all that stuff. We don't talk about statistically. So that's 0.002%. That a hate crime will actually happen to you. 0.002%. Just say if that number was doubled, we could say it's 0.004%. And I just put it under 300 million. I didn't put the actual 350 million because I wanted to easy to calculate. But we're talking about hate crimes. So 2,900 people, Black African Americans, experience hate crimes. So let's just say, hey, we don't believe these numbers. We think it's more. We think it's double the number. So that's 5,000 people in the United States. But racism is everywhere. And you got 0.004% on the high end of experiencing hate. So this is Barack term, 2,200. In 2011, 29 or 2,000, 2,100. 2,059 in 2012. 1,900. 1,647. In 2015, it went up back to 1,700. 2016, 1,700. 2017, 2,059. 2018, 1,900. 2019, 1,900. Are you guys seeing this number, right? 1,900. This is Trump term, 2020. Now, in 2020, what happened in 2020? BLM riots. Everybody was saying, oh, that's a hate crime. You get people taking videos from their phone. Look at this, Karen. It's a hate crime. Everybody was calling out everybody for a hate crime. Oh, she took my parking space. You racist white person. You looked at my dog funny. You racist. You took that bike and I was about to get that bike. You're racist. Everybody was calling every white person out for being racist. Okay. So in 2020, when the BLM riots happened, it skyrocketed back up. And we could say skyrocket, but it's still 0.002%, 2,800. 8,200 overall. So 0.002%. You as a Black person, we could say that number is a quarter of the 0.002%. So a quarter of a 2 points is 0.00005% of you will experiencing a hate crime. But this is on the FBI. So if we're talking about the FBI, we may or may not believe their numbers, but numbers don't lie. Numbers are not lying. You know, let's see how they calculate it, how these numbers are calculated. It says the Uniform Crime Reporting Program is a process of migrating data releases from statistic or static web publication hosted on the FBI. Data used creating these charts were from all law enforcement agencies, one or more hate crime incidents for at least 1 month of the calendar year. The published data, therefore, does not necessarily represent the reports from each participating agency for all 12 months or for 4 quarters. So they only report if they had at least 1 hate crime in the month. So that's why I said we could double the number. We could double the number because they didn't report the agencies if they didn't have a consistent hate crime report on a monthly basis. They needed at least have 1. So we're doubling the number. So do you feel that you're better off as a Black person? Or you feel like you're an endangered species? You might be an endangered species to from another black man or to another black man. That's true. But do you feel like you're an endangered species? Because they're saying hate crime, and what this guy said, John Millicamp, he said we're worst off. We might as well be slaves. Do you feel like that's true? Because hate crime is everywhere. He mentioned his son's friend got killed or ran over by a car because he got in an argument with the guy. So the guy ran him over and killed him. So we have to really consider what is the news telling us, and what people like this, people like this John Millicamp will have you believe that racism is everywhere and you're no better off than a slave. Well, that's all I got to say about that. I'm trying to see, do I have any other things I want to talk about today? I wanted to discuss Oprah Winfrey. Not Oprah Winfrey. What is the... Whoopi Goldberg. I thought this was funny. Whoopi Goldberg, she's on leave from The View because she has COVID-19. She has COVID-19. And I guess she called in to The View on Zoom and they had her. And she's in her home. She's in her home talking to Zoom with the mask on. Now, I know you have people, you probably got a maid, someone that helps you. But don't you think that's pretty odd? You have a mask on in your home on Zoom.
I have COVID. I just have COVID. I'm still testing positive. Apparently, I have to have a clear test before I can come back. So, I can't wait to get back and hang out. But until then, it's me and my mask, and I'm sort of confined to my room. I have COVID.
You're confined to your room. So why the hell do you have a mask on? That's what I'm saying. People are not that smart. People are not that smart. It's just, this is Die Suddenly. It's just me and my mask. Why is Whoopi Goldberg wearing a mask in the empty room? Why is she? Why is she doing that? And people are like, oh, she's so responsible. I've even seen people in their car by themselves and they have a mask on. I see people walking outside with a mask on. This lady was at the gym a couple of weeks ago. She had a damn mask on at the gym. Like, don't you know you're breathing the wrong chemical? You're breathing in that, what's carbon monoxide? The stuff that you cannot breathe. That's what you're breathing in when you have a mask on and you're trying to work out. But yeah, she had a mask on. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if you're around people and you think you are going to You think the mask is going to save you from something? Okay, wear your mask if you think it gives you comfort. But to me, it doesn't make any sense. But you're around people. Okay, so that's more, you can explain that more. Oh, I'm around people, so I'm going to wear a mask. Why in the hell are you wearing a mask when there's nobody's around? Anyway. This is George Soros. He says COVID-19 also helped legitimize elements of control. Look how old George Soros is.
Also helped legitimize instruments of control. COVID-19.
George Soros, is he German? I didn't know he was German. These response tweets are hilarious. Hey, lefty, this is weird F. This is weird AF. Somebody put Paige Shields, brought to you by Pfizer, Hyben, German, Sweden, Heimer, Schreiner, Russian Snizzle. Somebody else put, like, have another booster, whoopee. Someone else put, like, this is like putting on a condom after, this is pretty explicit, jerking off in the room alone. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. She's confined in a room and she got a mask on. That's crazy. Anyway, so that's it for our live stream for today. You guys make sure you like, subscribe, and share this channel. I'm teetering at 29,000 subscribers. I've been at 28,988 for the longest. I don't know if YouTube is just hating on me or what's going on, but I've been getting views. I just don't understand why my subscriber count has not increased. Anyway, so make sure you subscribe again if you haven't subscribed. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow and enjoy the rest of your day.